Look forward to any questions or...
I have a question.
Yes.
Given that the lab has very capable people working on this situation, and that the NMED has very capable people, and the goal is there to see for everyone, and that is a clean environment, why do there arise these dichotomies that lead to fines? The NMED fines the lab, and I never understand why.
Trying to get me in trouble, aren't you? You know, I think that's just part of the consent order, and I could elaborate on that and say, why do we need a consent order if we all have the same goal? I think it relates to funding and securing funding and letting Congress know that the state of New Mexico is just as serious about getting things cleaned up as the state of Washington is. You know, it just, I think you have to do something, or else, you know, it's back to the squeaky wheel getting the grease type situation. That for sure is one thing that plays into it.
But the fines, they probably work themselves all the way down to where we, the taxpayers, finally pay for them, which is okay. But how about credibility? How does that suffer? How is your credibility with the NMED? I guess, based on the fact that they've bitten your ear off a couple of times.
Well, I think it's important that the NMED keep their independence from us, because you have as many stakeholders that would criticize the NMED for working too closely with us and agreeing, and us working too closely or being in bed with each other. So again, it's a very delicate balance of them making sure everyone is aware that they're not working too closely with us. They are a separate regulatory entity. And like you said, we both have very intelligent people working in our organizations, but you need to be careful that intelligence isn't mingled too much, I guess. I don't know. It's a strange situation. We're hoping that in the future we can recognize ways that we can better work together, quit lobbing plans and reports over fences, waiting for 6 months for a review before we start a next cycle. We're trying to maybe accelerate some of those regulatory interactions so that they can be more live and real time, and that's really the way that you want to accelerate working together, I think. You want to add to that, Jeff?
I'm curious what you're referring to, what fines? What fines?
Pull your mic down, Jeff.
Well, occasionally you'll read in the paper where NMED fined the lab for one reason or other, and then back in the day when the gallery used to get filled up with quite a few knowledgeable people, people would stand up and criticize the lab and take the side of the NMED because of the way they drilled a well or because this or that. But there was always some kind of rejection of the lab policy.
Okay. In the couple of years I've been here now, you know, we had one fine from the state last year that was related to, of a few $1,000s, that was related to a violation on the RCRA hazardous waste inspection. There have not been any fines associated with the consent order work. I think the last one went back to, there was a well problem in 2009.
It's been 5 or 6
something
years.
like that. But I will say, you know, I think there's a bit of a difference at the state. Certainly they hold our feet to the fire in terms of performance and doing what they need to do. But at the same time, they've stepped up in working with us on priorities and being able to make adjustments so that we can work on what's important, as opposed to what was framed, you know, several years ago for work that enabled the 3706 project to move forward. But I think it's a little different than it used to be, and I don't know that it's such a climate today of, you know, just sitting there ready to knock us. And I think we realize that you know, our accountability is for performance and doing what we say we're going to do as we sign up to things. So
How does this
chart, which I understand is the status of where things are, compare to what you would have from the consent order? I mean, is this on track with the consent order, behind it, or is there a way to summarize
I think it's, the consent order is supposed to be complete in 2015. And I think it's pretty easy to see that we're a little over halfway complete, and some of the more challenging sites are left out there. I think DOE went on record last year with 3706 saying 2015 really isn't going to be made. And so we're looking at, because of funding shortfalls, so we're looking at working with the state to see what's the new date that we could work to.
So do you expect to renegotiate the consent order or modify it, whatever the term would be?
Yeah, so I think the state's going to talk about that at the next CAB meeting, and I'm going to reserve comments on that. So.
Dave, we saw in this last week, that something about TA41 in the history. Do you monitor TA41?
21.
No, I thought it was 41 in the paper, wasn't it?
Oh, TA41 is the site down in Los Alamos Canyon with the tunnel.
The TA41? I thought it was in the paper it was TA41.
It is TA41.
Okay, and there was some history there, but did you monitor that site, and has that been cleaned up pretty well?
All of the sites, there's two sites in Los Alamos Canyon or Omega Canyon, TA41 and TA2. Both those sites we monitor. TA2 is the former Omega West reactor site. TA41 is the other one that you're talking about. Those sites were, they're still monitored. They had an accelerated cleanup done on them back the year the Cerro Grande fire burnt, because that whole canyon is subject to flooding. So they have been remediated and they are currently monitored, yes. Alex.
You mentioned how many MDAs still need to be investigated, but how many SMUs in total do you need to investigate before the end of the consent order are left?
Well, that's the 800 and whatever I said minus 26.
Have they gone through any investigation whatsoever?
Yeah, most of them have been investigated and are in various stages right now of prioritization, cleanup, continued investigation. There's only, I believe, 24 sites left at the laboratory that haven't had work plans submitted to the state on, and those are all South Canyon sites where there's not expected to be any contamination at all. So even the delivery of those work plans has been delayed and prioritization slipped because of funding.
Okay. And then real quick, any news on TA54 Area G and the state's review of your plan? Your remedy selection for TA54 Area G? Didn't you submit a remedy selection?
So we submitted a CME, a corrective measure evaluation, and a recommendation for remedy for TA54 Area G, L, and H, and we're waiting on those three still from the state. Every once in a while we hear it's coming, get ready, and then, yeah. So,
Thanks.
sure. All right, thank you.
Thank you.